Well, the amount of daylight is getting pretty slim these days, and it's pretty cold out. We're bundling up, but how do wildlife survive the winter? I'm Kelly Blackledge at Tamarack National Wildlife Refuge, and welcome to Rhythms of the Refuge. Today, I want to share with you a little bit about how wildlife can survive these amazingly cold temps. It's pretty spectacular. There are lots of different kind of ways that wildlife survive. As you know, some animals just fly south. They leave. A lot of our birds will fly south. Others will bulk up for the winter. Some hibernate. But there's a lot of neat things that they do to be able to survive winter. One of the animals that is getting ready for winter is the chipmunk. These guys have been collecting food through the winter or through the fall to get ready for winter. They can fill their cheeks and stash and cache all kinds of food. Chipmunks, though, are not true hibernators. They go into a state that's a little bit like hibernation, but not quite. They do wake up and eat. In fact, I've even seen a chipmunk out in January, if you can believe that. There are some animals that are true hibernators. We're going to focus on some of the mammals that are hibernators and some that aren't. One that's a really good hibernator is the 13-line ground squirrel. I know you've seen some of these. That's our state mammal, I think, the ground squirrel with all the stripes on the back. These are great hibernators. They are true hibernators, and once they have bulked up and head underground, they're going to stay there for 6-7 months before you see them again. They're true hibernators because their body temperature can actually drop. Their metabolism drops a lot. So much so that, you can hardly tell that they're still alive. Another one that's really good at hibernating is the woodchuck. The woodchuck is also a true hibernator and probably one of the biggest mammals that is a true hibernator. This one also, the metabolism slows way down. For example, its heart rate normally at 80 beats per minute will slow all the way down to 4 or 5 beats per minute. So it can change its body in a way that allows it to sleep or go into a state where it doesn't require a lot of energy to survive and can feed off of the fat contents in its body from bulking up over the fall to be able to survive the winter. Now, there are a few animals that you wonder, we don't see them in the winter, but they're not true hibernators. So animals like the raccoon that are really good at bulking up, adding a lot of fat. One of the few animals that look pretty good when they're chunky and fat are raccoons. Another one is the skunk. These are both animals that go into a state of torpor. That means that they're really good at sleeping for long periods of time, but they do wake up during the winter months as well. Bears. Now, these are some bears that were seen out on the refuge. The bears, you might think, again, are true hibernators, and scientists are still kind of arguing, I think, a little bit about whether or not they're true hibernators or not. But bears are such a big animal that their body temperature doesn't drop like other animals as they're sleeping or in the den the whole time. And of course, as you may know, bears give birth over the winter months. A female will. So they're easily aroused or woken up during the winter. They may not come out of the den, and they don't eat or go to the bathroom or anything like that during this sleep time or time of torpor in the winter. So some may think that's really hibernating. If you're not going to eat all winter long and you can survive, that's a pretty amazing feat. Bears are really good at bulking up. They go into a state of hyperphagia, it's called. Their hormones change, and in September, they just are really bulking up and adding a lot of weight. Now, in Minnesota, we have the black bears, and a big black bear might weigh about 500 pounds. But one of the things I like to do in the winter, or at least in the fall, the first part of October, is participate in Fat Bear Week. It's kind of fun to watch these bears bulk up. But in Alaska, at Katmai National Park, they keep track of bears. These bears, they take a picture of in the spring or in the summer months when they're a little thinner or just coming out of hibernation, and then take another picture in the fall when they're really bulked up. And you can vote on which bear you think is the fattest or carries its weight the best. So watch for Fat Bear Week every fall. Bears are so good at holding their fat. So unlike us, it's great for some of these animals to have a lot of fat on them. I know animals like porcupine, they don't hibernate, they're awake all winter long. And they look great when they're nice and chunky. They're healthy that way. They like to have this layer of fat that can support them through the winter months, because some animals will use that fat as energy through the winter to survive. Another animal is the beaver. Again, it's awake all winter long, but it does need a good layer of fat. And even beavers will store some of that fat in their tail. So they're really good at processing and keeping that fat on them. They also are good at preparing a nice warm house. So beavers will have a nice lodge. This one is just added some dirt to it to really seal it up good. A lot of logs that are there. And of course, beavers will have an underwater entry to this home. So they're not very often are they out in the elements. They're either in the water underneath, getting to their cache of food that they've stored next to the lodge and bringing materials through the winter months into the lodge to feed on. So they have quite a nice place to live for the winter there. Another animal that you might see out in the winter is the otter. Watch for otters where you can find a small hole in the ice or something like that. They'll pop out of the ice. This one is feeding on a frog. So frogs are true hibernators and become pretty easy pickings for an animal like the otter to find food. Mostly otters are eating fish and catching fish under the water, but a slow-moving or hibernating frog might be an easy catch. Again, they kind of bulk up and have a great layer of fat on them through the winter months. But not all animals have that kind of ability. We do see animals like deer that develop an amazing coat of fur through the winter months, and they're the type of food that they eat changes a bit as well. So, where deer are eating a lot of juicy green vegetation in the summer months, they do switch to eating buds and bark and things that they can find. They'll try to dig things up through the snow too, but they eat a lot of buds and shrubs and things during the winter months, and their body will change to be able to process those pretty completely. So they are able to kind of change how they digest their food through the winter months. Another one, coyote. You won't see them like nice and fat and dragging a belly on the ground or something like that. They need to stay slim enough that they can still hunt for food. So coyote, wolf is the same way, a great coat of fur on these animals, but still able to hunt through the winter months. We do see animals that might go into short periods of torpor, which means they are sleeping in, kind of long periods of time on a really cold winter day. You might not see the squirrels come out to your bird feeders. They'll just stay home that day. And they're mostly sleeping. Again, their body temp changes, the metabolism changes in a way that they can survive a few days without food. But mostly they're going to track through the snow and find a food source. Squirrels are pretty good at that. Another one that does that are rabbits. This is a cottontail rabbit. We also have snowshoe hares, jackrabbits, but a lot of cottontail rabbits. And they too are changing their diet a bit like the deer do to feed on some of those buds and branches and food that's available for them during the winter months. Winter is a pretty time to be outside, out and about, so I hope you don't hibernate. Take some time to get outside, bulk up, and I mean with a coat and mittens. There's no such thing as really bad weather. It's just poorly dressed people, right? So you can get outside, get some fresh air, hike on a trail, go snowshoeing, go cross-country skiing, ice fishing. There's lots of things to do in the winter time. We just have to be prepared for it. Well, I hope you are, again, not hibernating, but finding a way to get outdoors and enjoy winter. It's a beautiful time of year, and some of the amazing things that animals are able to do through the winter to survive are things that scientists today are looking closely at. I mean, really, when you think about, a bear being able to lay in a den for months on end and yet not have any muscle atrophy or nothing goes wrong with their liver or their kidneys. If we were to lay like that for a long period of time, we would suffer the consequences for sure. So even things like osteoporosis, diabetes, muscular dystrophy, there are lots of ways scientists are researching how animals survive the winter that they might be able to convert to how we can survive or be healthier, solve some of the health issues that we have as humans by looking at the way animals are hibernating. So pretty amazing things happening in the winter time. We'll see you outside.